Hey everybody, I am extremely excited for this conversation today about court shoes only. We've seen countless collaboration beers across our industry the past several years, but it seems I can't get this one out of my Facebook feed. Thanks, Aaron. I think you put a lot of those articles out there. But
You're
for
welcome.
nearly 5 years, I've been fascinated with the growth of the Charlotte beer scene, and I believe this initiative, which I'm excited to learn more about today, is a reflection of why Charlotte has seen such success for craft beer. But first, let's do a round of introductions. And Gavin, since you are to the right of me, learn a little bit more about you today.
Hey, y'all. I'm Gavin with Divine Barrel Brewing, as it says on my screen. I am the director of operations over here. So I kind of have my hand in a little bit of everything. I'm one of the founders as well, so been with us since day one. Still haven't brewed a beer yet, but maybe one day. We just had our 4-year anniversary, so my hopes are still high. But yeah, I handle everything from helping with marketing, taproom, events, managing just about anything, and sales, of course.
Which is your least favorite hat to wear?
All the data entry that I have to do for outside sales. I didn't think I'd be staring at a computer so much, excluding this session, of course. This is lovely. But yeah, data entry is a total bummer.
Well, thanks for being here today, and sorry to make you stare at the screen. Neil,
it's totally okay.
Very excited to meet you today. What do you do?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Really appreciate you having us on. I am the regional program director for ACEing Autism's Southeastern programs. Lifelong tennis player, about half my life a craft beer fan, and have been involved in the Charlotte beer scene since about 2010, 2011, and have combined both a passion for tennis, which I've played my whole life, with professional pursuits in craft beer. And really excited about talking more about the programs today.
And your story intertwines quite a bit with this initiative. I'm excited to dive more into your past. But first, a quick question. How do you feel about table tennis?
Large fan.
Okay, good. I don't want to feel offended. I'm a big ping pong player myself.
Okay. Well, come down to Charlotte. I know some good spots.
I've been looking forward to visiting Charlotte for about 5 years now, and it's on my top 3 list of cities to get in the near future. So I look forward to meeting you all in person soon, especially Aaron, because we were supposed to meet outside of Crozet, Virginia, or somewhere in that area a few months ago, but it didn't pan out. We've yet to meet in person over the past 5 years. But for everyone who hasn't unfortunately caught you in one of the many times you've been live in Craft Beer Professionals, who are you and what do you do in the industry?
Oh, I'm your worst nightmare. But aside from that, hey, everybody. I'm Aaron Gore. I'm the Senior Director of Business Development for Bavana, the world's first market access platform for small craft beverage companies across the world. I also love to talk, and love the sound of my own voice. So as many opportunities as Andrew gives me to get a platform, I am happy to take him up on it. And I've also been fortunate enough to work with Nils on Court Shoes Only for the last 2 years, really making that a reality and making it a success. And fortunate enough to know Gavin and Dustin for a few years now, and just really be able to appreciate what they're doing, not only through the beer that they make, but through their impact on their communities.
Awesome. Well, always a pleasure to have you again, Aaron, despite what I say sometimes.
I know you mean every word.
Now, Dustin, I'm excited to meet you today. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, my name's Dustin Gatliff. I'm the owner and head brewer of Southern Range Brewing in Monroe, North Carolina, right outside of Charlotte. We've been around it'll be 6 years in May. And I've done pretty much everything in the brewery, brewing, paperwork, taxes, all that kind of stuff. Luckily, my wife joined the team last year, so I can do more brewing and fixing and paperwork now. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, glad to have you today. Let's dive in. Now, Niels, you run an event production company that's passionate about creating memorable experiences, and you founded the Queen City Brewers Festival in 2012. Can you tell us a little bit more about that event and why you chose to work, with craft breweries?
Yeah, definitely. So I come from a sports entertainment background and took a job with the Charlotte Bobcats, now the Hornets, back in 2007. and learned an awful lot about marketing and sales for kind of a glorified expansion team at the time. And after 3 very long seasons, I thought, you know what? I would like to be more involved with the organization and production of events. I had a good bit of experience selling and marketing ticketed events. And having moved from Boston, what I really missed in Charlotte was craft beer tasting festivals. I thought it was so interesting to actually meet the guy that made the beer I was enjoying, and he was right in front of me. It was an amazing connection. There wasn't a lot of that in Charlotte back in the 2010 timeframe, with the exception of a fall Charlotte Oktoberfest. So I thought, you know what? Charlotte has an emerging brewery scene. There were a little more than half a dozen breweries at the time, when I thought, you know what, let's do something that is reasonable to start, from a startup production company standpoint, and let's focus only on Charlotte breweries. So that's how Queen City Brewers Festival came to be. We had 8 breweries at the time at a small music venue in the NODA Arts District, and has grown over the years just with the industry as a whole. It hasn't gone outside of Charlotte. The spotlight has always been Charlotte. And through that event, it's just opened up a number of other doors within the local craft beer industry. And I work as well with the Charlotte Independent Brewers Alliance. So a very natural extension of my work with QC Brewfest. And, in addition to that is the role with ACEing Autism, which is more of a nights and weekends thing, and something I'm just very passionate about from a mission standpoint.
And you said you also have 3 kids?
Yes, 3 kids and a dog and a very understanding wife. And we make it all work. And this is just, it's an awesome place to raise a family and drink beer.
Awesome. I love it. So when you first launched the Queen City Beer Fest, how connected were you in the Charlotte beer scene? Or were you just kind of this guy said, hey, I've got this great idea for a beer fest. What do you think?
Yeah, very much the latter. I of course, I love to go to breweries and meet the brewers and the owners, but it was very much hey, let's grab a coffee, let's grab a beer. I've got this idea. What do you think? And one by one, got the nods of approval, and some were a little bit easier to come by than others. But I had a fair amount of help from the local homebrew club here, the Carolina Brewmasters, produced the first event with experience, with equipment. So starting off on the right foot was huge. I mean, that was kind of how we proved it. And the response just from beer fans was amazing. We sold out super quickly the first several years, and continued to have success, and can't wait for it to come back in a little under a year.
We'll dive into that shortly, but looking at the Charlotte beer scene, and this is for all of you, in the early 2010s, did you imagine it growing as much as it has over the past decade?
Oh gosh, absolutely not. I didn't think that we'd continue to see 4, 5, 6 new breweries, opening year after year after year. That has become so much of the value proposition to attend Queen City Brewers Festival, is because typically you stay in your neighborhood or in your zone, and you don't take that 20, 25, maybe 30-minute ride to try out the new guy. So the Brewfest has served as a real, opportunity to try all these regional breweries under one roof. I thought we'd probably hover maybe around 15 or 20 breweries, and they would continue to expand and grow. But clearly there's an appetite and a thirst for more and more. And I don't know what the statistics are, guys. It's something like 150 newcomers a day to the Charlotte region. It's just amazing what the growth is here, and they're coming for an appreciation of craft beer. That's for sure.
That's fantastic. And Gavin, when did Divine Barrel open up?
We opened in 2018, so 4 years ago, March, and we opened in the Arts District, NODA, that area of Charlotte. And yeah, we are seeing a massive growth in that area. Got a 120 unit townhome coming. We got a 39 unit townhome finished. We've got, I think 1,400 apartment units coming just down the street. It's insane, the growth of Charlotte. And so we picked this little pocket of NODA to be kind of right in the middle, and rent was cheap-ish.
Is it the growth of Charlotte?
That's the funniest thing too, Gavin, because when you guys located down there was nothing on that end of NODA. Like, that was the part where you clearly walked too far and you made a very bad mistake. Turn around. Now it's just as active, and there's so much going on and so much life down there, just like the whole rest of the neighborhood. And it's been really cool to see it develop with you guys being.
Yeah, we actually got a 4-way stop sign in last week. So that's a huge move for our people. Are no longer driving 90. They're driving like 65, kind of stopping and looking at least. So we are growing.
You all are talking about the growth of Charlotte in general. But, what factors in Charlotte are contributing to the success of craft beer outside of obviously just general growth of the city?
So one of the biggest ones is definitely just the age of the people who are coming in. Less than half of the population of Charlotte's even from the Carolinas, much less from Charlotte originally. It's the second fastest growing metro area in the U.S. over the
Why are they coming to Charlotte, Aaron? What's so great?
Well, me, obviously, but aside from that obvious fact, Charlotte it's the second largest banking center in the U.S. after New York, and it's basically the East Coast center for a lot of the West Coast banks as well. So there's a ton of opportunity. The weather's really nice. We're in a part of the country where it's kind of that Goldilocks zone where the summers get hot, but it's not Florida hot. It gets a little, if you ask anybody who's been living here too long, it gets way too cold in the winter, but literally we'll get like one dusting 3 times a year. It's not too bad. So the weather's appealing. There's a ton of jobs and a ton of development. So as a result, you have all this growth and a lot of young, talent really moving into the area and bringing with them the kind of interests that young people with disposable income tend to have. And one of those tends to be craft beer.
Awesome.
There's a lot of great beer here too.
A lot of great beer here.
When did you open the brewery?
We opened in May 2016. So, and like I said, we're just outside of Charlotte, about 20 minutes. And it's an older city with a nice historic downtown area that didn't have a lot going on at the time, and I was probably a little bit crazy for opening a brewery here. But now it's just there's a couple of little bottle shops here and a couple craft beer bars. We're downtown. There's people out walking around. It's really cool. So it's Monroe's come a long way as well, and we're excited about it.
And looking at the craft beer industry as a whole, you have those stereotypical beer cities, the Denvers, the San Diegos, the Portlands, the Asheville's. I don't think Charlotte was originally on that list, but I would argue that on the new wave of those upcoming beer cities, Charlotte's absolutely on that list. There's a lot of cities, and I haven't visited, but everything I see from the outside and I've learned, it really impresses me. And there's other cities like in Ohio, for example, the Cincinnatis of the world, the Columbuses of the world. I really feel like there's a correlation between the business savviness of a city and the growth of craft beer in those markets. And I think Charlotte's a prime example of that.
Charlotte and Pittsburgh are the two most underrated beer scenes in the whole country.
I would add Pittsburgh to that list as well.
Yeah, it's been cool to see some people finally starting to take notice. One of the challenges that we have in Charlotte is we're in the orbit of Asheville, which Asheville very deservedly is considered one of the best beer cities on earth. And that's not something that should ever be taken away from them. But it's good to see Charlotte also getting recognized. And to a degree, also Raleigh, Durham, the Triad, the whole state of North Carolina really being recognized as playing at that level of just amazing beer, amazing craft beer culture, and, just a fantastic environment for people who love it.
Absolutely.
I think we differ a little bit from Asheville because of that big city nature, and Asheville's always been a tourist destination, whereas Charlotte's always been a business destination. So it is surprising that Charlotte didn't start their beer scene earlier. I mean, you've got the OMBs who are a little bit older, and of course NODA and Birdsong, and there've been some other older breweries that have come and gone. But we have the power of people always moving here. Asheville's hitting a peak. I mean, yes, they've got some badass breweries up there, but now you're seeing them sprawl out into other cities where like Mills River with Sierra and Brevard. So we've got a lot of room for growth within Charlotte proper, and then places like Monroe too, and Cornelius and Huntersville, you name it. So we're going to keep growing.
Well, I can't wait to visit. Now I want to go back to the QC Brewfest. Now, Niels, was there always a charity component to it when you first launched?
Yeah. From year one, that is something that is very much in line with brewers, brewery owners, and being a part of the community and giving back and making really, the quality of life here even better. So what I had looked at some different partners to work with. I worked as a park ranger many years ago in in high school days.
That sounds awesome.
There's a really cool parks and recreation advocacy group that we partnered with the first 2 years, Partners for Parks. And then by the time the third year rolled around, the light bulb kind of went off between myself and the founder of ACEing Autism.
And you had already had a relationship with ACEing Autism at this time?
With the founder. And then a few years after we met in Boston, we both moved away. But we kept in touch. He came out to volunteer at the first QC Brewfest and was amazed that so many people would come together to try craft beer. And this was a real tight-knit community. And the interesting thing was he packed so heavy. For some reason, he was just there a couple nights, but he left with me this expansive kit to start an ACEing Autism program in Charlotte. So I developed the program location here, and then we said, let's use the Brewfest as a vehicle to generate some more awareness about the program, some fundraising so we can include more families. And boy, oh boy, has that been an amazing platform. And we now have 4 programs in the Charlotte area and one coming to Monroe this spring.
No, that's fantastic. And a question for everybody just in general. Why is it important we use craft beer to support causes that can make a difference? I'd love to hear everybody's opinions on that.
Everybody drinks beer.
One more time, Gavin.
Everybody drinks beer. So why not help? I mean, we're a community space, first and foremost at Divine Barrel. We happen to serve beer. We happen to make it, and we've always wanted to be a strong part of the community because we have the space, we have the gathering area for anyone to come in that wants to, as long as you're nice, and it's kind of like, why not? You can't, you have back. That's the best part of working in any kind of industry is giving back. And so, yeah, for breweries, it's kind of easy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We're always trying to, do what we can to help the community, because they're always so supportive of us, whether it be in Monroe, Charlotte, or wherever. That's just one of the things, us, and it seems like, most of the breweries in Charlotte and really all over the country try to do. And, like Gavin said, everybody drinks beer, so why not?
When you two first launched your breweries, was this part of the game plan to give back on that level, or is it something you realized you wanted to do once you saw the community you were building? Yeah, and you're nodding your head. Was it always part of the game plan?
It was day one on our handwritten for when we were trying to figure out the whole
Gavin,
idea.
you're cutting in and out a little bit, bud.
Yeah. While Gavin fixes his audio, Dustin, I'd love to hear from you. Was it part of your mission from day one to give back to the local communities and support initiatives like this?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I remember QCBF was our first beer festival we did, and it was quite exciting for us because it was such a big festival. It had already been going on for a couple of years. I remember going back when I was a home brewer before we had opened the brewery, so we were super excited to do that. And yeah, really just any giving back we could do, or fundraisers, or, donations or whatever, we always were, with that day one. It gets a little bit easier, when you first open a brewery, it's a little bit harder to give, as much as you want to, but yeah, it's always been something for us as well.
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
All right. Sorry about that. My AirPods gave up on me. But yeah, I mean, this was, again, on our handwritten notes, community, when we started this brewery. It's a part of our mantra I joined the NODA Neighborhood Association and have been on their board for 3 years now. It's a big part of who we are, and we have to support our neighbors and the community around it. So it was just kind of one of those things that we knew we wanted to raise money. It's picking the right people to partner with. It definitely helps. You have some hits and misses, and we like our partnerships to last years. We recently just signed on to do we've done some cool stuff with the Hardest Yard, Greg Olson's foundation, and we finally canned that beer with their logo on it, which was huge. Able to help them out, and they've helped us out. So the partnerships within the community and raising those funds helps a lot too, because I don't like one and done. It's not a partnership. That's just a date. And, I want to have a lasting relationship.
One thing you said just now, Gavin, that stands out to me is you used the term partnership, which I love. And you talked about the organization you just worked with. You put their logo on your label, and they promoted you as well. It's a two-way street. And I think an important part of partnerships is both sides putting the work in. Absolutely. Now, Niels, I'd love to learn a little bit more about ACEing Autism and what the organization stands for and does.
Yeah. So ACEing Autism is very much what it sounds like. If you can see my shirt here, we are a tennis-focused nonprofit that has a specialized curriculum, and we meet kids ages 5 to 18 years old on the autism spectrum with specialized tennis clinics. It's a volunteer-driven organization. So high school kids, young professionals, lifelong tennis players, autism specialists, that makes up our volunteer force. And we have seasonal programs. They're 6 weeks in length, typically in the fall and in the spring. It's a national organization, so a little over 100 locations across the U.S. And it was founded in Boston, and now the headquarters are in L.A. We have strong presence in North Carolina and in Florida, a lot of the nicer weather locations as well. And, what we've found is that we really are a function of our volunteer force. The more volunteers we have, the more families we can serve. So partnerships that drive awareness, like those through Court Shoes Only or a big consumer event like Queen City Brewers Fest, that makes people aware of this unique organization where you don't necessarily need tennis experience, just have an enthusiasm for contributing. And we've driven our volunteer pool through these types of events and initiatives, and that's how we're able to serve more kids. And the growth is amazing. It seems like if you're holding a can of Court Shoes Only, you see ACEing Autism. If you're a parent or just a beer fan in general, chances are you might know someone who's touched by autism. Hey, check out ACEing Autism. We've got all these different locations, and we're driving more interest from participants through these programs as well.
No, it sounds like such an important organization. So when the time came to make the decision to not have the QC Brewfest in 2021, had you already thought about a collaboration beer initiative, or what was the process like in all of your minds of how you got from the in-person event to the beer?
Oh gosh, there were several different iterations of what can we do instead of gathering. Queen City Brewers Festival is held on Super Bowl Saturday, the day before the Super Bowl. So we knew that we weren't going to risk doing anything outside. It was just, unable to bring large gatherings together. So we'd seen breweries like Divine Barrel and Resident Culture and others do brew-throughs really successfully. So we thought, what if we could stage some grand brew-through on Super Bowl weekend? What could we do something online? We'd seen that before. And then, the idea of the collaborative, even citywide beer in our case came to mind because it had been proven with Resilience, for instance, the Altogether IPA we saw from Other Half. And then I think the boldest example was Black is Beautiful and the response to that. And that all kind of came to mind. And I've tapped Aaron on the shoulder for years. He's worn many hats in this industry, and I thought, hey man, do you think this would work with just the Charlotte breweries? And lo and behold, the response was tremendous. I mean, almost all of the breweries that participated at the Brewfest participated in Court Shoes Only. So yeah, the answer was yes, and I'm glad you kind of gave the thumbs up on that, Aaron, before we went to the next idea.
So while there have been quite a bit of collaboration beers over the past few years, there's not necessarily a collaboration beer playbook. So where did you start? And I imagine, Aaron, you probably had a little role in this.
Yeah. So you're 100% right. Part of the issue is there's not really a good, kind of best practices for doing something like this. It's a relatively new concept. People have been doing collaboration beers for charity for forever, but as far as an open source, collaborative effort to really be able to activate people and be able to leverage not just the individual breweries, but really the craft beer community on both the supplier side and the customer side, that's relatively new. Resilience really kind of kicked off something unprecedented with that altogether, really drove it forward. But I'll be perfectly honest, for me, the single biggest influence was not only Black is Beautiful, but also looking at what they were able to do with that. I think it's pretty easy for us to kind of take it for granted just how successful that movement was. And it did benefit from a cultural zeitgeist, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't an enormous amount of careful planning and execution and being able to leap on opportunities and really execute against them that made it so successful. So Marcus Baskerville of Weathered Souls, most people are very familiar with Marcus. He was really the brain behind Black is Beautiful. And I don't want to take away at all the enormous amount he's been able to accomplish with that and really be able to raise both awareness and funds for very important causes throughout the Black community in America. But Kimberly Machado, who is his marketing head, what she was able to do in promoting and supporting that and really taking it from being an amazing concept into something that got brewers excited by it, but almost more importantly was really able to activate craft beer enthusiasts in the secondary market, to where for the first time ever, I saw people trading Black is Beautiful, all over the country. It's kind of the Beanie Baby phenomenon, Beanie Babies
still happening there. And I saw a post about it yesterday.
100%. And so I liken big Beanie Babies to craft beer all the time. So it sounds like a weird analogy. So hear me out.
What's your favorite Beanie Baby while we're on the subject?
Oh, Tabasco the Red Bull, because, when I was a kid, he was the one who was worth the most. Weird that I have a favorite. So the success of Beanie Babies wasn't because of the Beanie Babies. The success of Beanie Babies was because they were able to create demand on the secondary market. So a little Beanie Baby would sell for like $6, but then it'd sell for $250 to somebody across the country. They're actually one of the biggest things that got eBay off the ground, believe it or not. So what they did was really facilitate that and play into that to drive that interest and drive that passion to people who are looking at this as an investment, looking at this as an opportunity to, if I buy it now at this price, it'll really be successful down the line. It's also what a lot of, the quick releases, regular taproom exclusives are built around in the beer industry. Well, Black is Beautiful really took that and kicked it up to 11. And one of the most inspired things I think that they did was to, make it so that, yes, we have a base recipe, but we really do want everybody to put their own spin on it and really be able to filter it through their own philosophy of brewing, their own ingredients that they prefer. And what that did was create it so that no two Black is Beautifuls were the same, and that it really incentivized people being able to try and catch them all, try and find them all, and really be able to, seek them out. And that created demand in New York for a version of Black is Beautiful in Wyoming. That created demand in Minnesota for a version that was brewed in Austin. And that's powerful because that really draws more eyes, more attention, and more enthusiasm around the cause. So for Court Shoes Only, unabashedly, and I've told Kim this, we really wanted to be able to take some of the lessons that we were able to glean from the playbook she used on that and that Marcus used on that, and really be able to leverage them on a more local, even more community and locality focused model.
And that's what I want to dive into right now. According to the numbers I saw online, 44 Charlotte area breweries participated in this. And this was last year. How many breweries last year were approximately in the Charlotte area?
Boy, if you count every single nano brewery from north, south, east, and west, you're probably close to 100, in Mecklenburg and the surrounding county. So
but that's nearly half of the breweries in Charlotte area participated in this. What was that process like, just approaching these breweries? How were they learning about Court Shoes Only, and how are you getting their buy-in to want to be part of this initiative?
A whole lot of freaking phone calls, I'll tell you that.
Wait, you can catch a brewer on the phone?
It took one email.
That is true.
Email. I mean,
that is true. We had some outstanding, incredibly handsome gentlemen who participated quick, but no, honestly, it really wasn't really much of a sell. I mean, for the most part, with Nils having been so steeped in the industry for so long, and being someone that everyone around here trusts to be such an advocate for Charlotte beer and an advocate for ACEing Autism, the ask really wasn't much of an ask. It was just being able to get in front of folks. I think the biggest challenge we have is just the fact that if you're a brewery owner, and Gavin, Dustin, I know you guys can back this as well. Holy crap, your inbox piles up quick. So just being able to actually get that email in front of them is the hardest part. So a lot of what we did was either, just follow up on emails, phone calls, or just show up. But the response from the community was overwhelming and incredibly supportive.
And Gavin and Dustin, when did you first hear about Court Shoes Only? Was it through email? Was it face-to-face? And what was your reaction when they told you about it?
Go ahead, Dustin.
I mean, from what I remember, I believe Niels just sent an email. We knew Court Shoes Only, or not Court Shoes Only. The Queen City Brewfest wasn't happening, and it was at a time where there wasn't really a whole lot going on. And it was just cool to brew something different. That we knew everybody would be excited about, because people, at least in the Charlotte market, they love, trying the same beers, from different breweries, back to back and head to head, and, to see what they think, and the differences between them. So, we were in from day one, basically, to support Niels and ACEing Autism, and, just for that time of the year, or that at that time, it was just, something that we could all get behind. That was pretty cool,
And Gavin, how about you? What was your thought process like when they first approached you?
Easy enough. It was a production calendar change, which is always kind of tough. But, you work these things out, especially we always try to participate in QCBF. So since that wasn't happening, it made it an easier decision. And we did that famous word from 2020, pivot. We just made it happen. This one, the new Court Shoes Only for this year, we're really excited about, and we actually barrel aged some. So that's even a different pivot. Can't really barrel age an IPA. I know some people have.
Not with that attitude, you can't.
Sierra Nevada is a great one. I've been trying to do it for a while, so that's not a knock. I would love to do it, but I know it's not always the best thing. But anyway. It was one of those things. I mean, Niels is a friend. We play tennis together every now and then, and so it's easy. I have a lot of faith in Niels and what he's done for the Charlotte beer community, so I want to keep helping.
No, I love that. Now let's look at the recipe for a little bit. We've talked about the business side of the operation, but Niels, how does the recipe play into the initiative?
Yeah, big time. And Aaron will appreciate this. I am always trying to incorporate some sort of tennis pun in every step of our playbook here. So with the sport of tennis, you can't really have much success if you don't have someone on the other side of the net to hit a tennis ball with. And that was very much the thinking with creating the recipe. Having two co-creating brewers, kind of bounce ideas off of one another and come up with something that they both feel confident about, something that their expertise. If I think of certain brewers, I think of certain beers. So that kind of goes into the process of, hey, who is someone in the community that we think would be really up for creating a hazy IPA, an imperial stout, a lager, so on and so on. And leave it up to that initial brewer who we ask and tap on the shoulder. Hey, who might you want to co-create a beer recipe with? So it starts from that aspect. It's not just one person's ideas, but it starts as a co-creation, a collaboration recipe. And that is really what sets the stage for the beer itself. And then as Dustin was saying, and Gavin too, taking an interpretation of that recipe and putting your own personality on it. That's what's so interesting, to try the variants and compare them and think, oh my gosh, how did these guys come up with a sour interpretation of it? It's what keeps the interest high, and super excited for this to roll out. And I'm really curious what the interpretations will be with this year's beer, because an Imperial Stout, it's a dark beer. You can go in a number of different directions with it.
Awesome. I look forward to trying as well. Now, just looking at the impact it has on craft beer drinkers, do you all see consumers going to different breweries, seeking out the different variants of this, or how do you feel it's impacted traffic or just knowledge of your brands?
I mean, just take Black is Beautiful for an example, what Aaron talked about. I mean, you can do that on a local level too. We had, when Black is Beautiful came out, I had some guests come in, and I think we were their 8th brewery they did a few in Raleigh and a few down here in Charlotte, and we became their favorite brewery. Now we've created partnerships based off of them just liking our beer. And they're another charity we partner with. Together We Stand. So, it's really cool to do this on a local level and watch the surrounding areas. And I know it's expanding to the Triangle and things like that too. So you're going to see that trading. And I know we're going to be doing a tasting of a lot of them over at Divine Barrel. So, it's really cool for us to do all of those different things on that local level.
No, you're literally leading into the next question I wanted to ask you all. So many of these collaborations we've seen have been nationwide collaborations. I'd love to hear why you chose the approach to make it more localized. I know, this year you're expanding outside of the Charlotte area to other locations in Carolina, but what was the value of starting something like this strictly in the Charlotte area? And how did that, factor into success?
I mean, before Niels goes off, and
everyone's excited on this one.
Strength in numbers. It starts small and then you build from there. But I'll let them take over because they're the leaders on it.
Hey, I should never be trusted to lead anything. That's scary. Niels, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. And Aaron, I know you'll echo exactly what Gavin just said. Starting on a local level and then going deep and then going more broadly. But the the selection process from a local area, this is all related to where ACEing Autism has program locations. Breweries getting behind a community program that's right in their backyard, I think is what will certainly resonate. And that's how we approached the expansion into Asheville, the Triad and Triangle. Those are all areas where ACEing Autism has an established program location. So let's keep the focus on those programs and get the breweries in those communities highlighted and reach the families and volunteers that way too.
Yeah, it was also a little bit about creating a bit of a better model for what this is. I think one of the big errors that's been made in some of the other charitable collaborations that have happened in the last couple of years is everybody wants to be the next Black is Beautiful, but it's led to everybody trying to wedge in one more national program. And what that really does is it winds up exhausting some of the media, exhausting some of your connections, exhausting some of the paths, because with respect to breweries, they want to give as much as they can and they want to make as much of an impact as they can, but they still have to run a business and they still have all the things that pull them in a million different directions on a daily basis. It's hard being a small business owner, no matter what you're doing. So by focusing local and really focusing on the areas where we have the most connections and really trying to make as big an impact in a small area as we could, we wanted to make it have the biggest impact, not only for the charity itself, but also for the participants. We wanted this to be incremental to them. We wanted this to help really raise awareness with the people who matter the most to them, who are their local customers, their local communities. That's also why it was important to us to tie it into local ACEing Autism programs. We wanted this to be extremely salient and extremely relevant to the people who are going to the breweries that they're attending. I think that's really where we're going to see a lot more impact with something like this, because we're not going to have enough room for 4 or 5 more Black is Beautifuls, but we definitely can have enough room for similar concepts executed on that more local, that more focused basis to really be able to provide their own impact on a smaller but deeper level.
Now, awareness is an obvious benefit and goal of collaborations, but when you all first launched Court Shoes Only in 2021, did you have those 3 or 4 goals that you had written down on a little notepad that you want to see achieved from the initiative?
I think so. I feel that, this started as, hey, what can we do in lieu of QC Brewfest? So, maybe we get half of our typical brewery participants to participate. And gosh, when we were close to almost all of them, we knew, wow, we knocked that out of the park. And then what was interesting was that when you get this traditional Brewfest that comes back every Super Bowl weekend, year after year after year, it just becomes kind of secondary to you, and it doesn't really, as much as I try to make it fresh and different every year, this was something that was just so different. And for the breweries to really get into it, we'd bring tennis props, and I have one right here, our giant court shoe.
Can I have my shoe back, please?
Yeah. To have some fun and keep things fresh and just have a different perspective on what ACEing Autism is and how it's connected to the local brewery industry. It just made such a difference from, a website traffic standpoint, donation activity, and people checking us out. So, if we can increase followers, increase awareness, and keep everyone engaged, then yeah, we checked all the boxes.
I love it. And Niels, that kind of leads us literally directly into what I wanted to know next. What are the metrics you've used to successfully gauge the impact of this? You talked about traffic, you talked about donations. I'd love for you to dive a little bit deeper into that and what you've seen.
Yeah, definitely. So one really cool event was a cool bottle shop not too far from Charlotte that had a number of different variants on tap. And they had displayed a QR code, that sent you directly to the ACEing Autism website. Is that something we could do more effectively in the future? But it really is about, visiting our website, finding out where the program locations are located, and getting involved. When we see that our volunteer pool has grown from 100 individuals to, hey, now we have 135, and these guys are fresh signups. We're just seeing new families that are coming to our programs. Opening a new program location has about a $25,000 cost, with marketing and training and launching it. So if we can put a dollar amount in what we fundraise to launching a new program, that's probably the most, linear metric that we're looking at is how can we grow and how can we also sustain what we have in the marketplace.
And for the initiative as a whole, and for Gavin and Dustin, as individual breweries, have your goals changed at all for 2022, or have you made them even, more lofty goals?
I mean, as far as what we're doing personally or how to help out Niels?
Either. I mean, are your goals to raise more for the initiative? Are your goals to draw greater awareness, of course?
Absolutely. I mean, again, it goes back to the community thing. Like I said, too, I have a lot of faith in Niels and Aaron, I guess, too. But, it's that continued.
I'll make you regret that.
Shouldn't have said that. But it's continued growth of the program, because it does, especially with this being so localized, too, and now moving into the different Triangle, Triad, Asheville areas, too. There's going to be more visits. More people are going to come by each brewery to check out each different version. And that's really important too, because that's how we ultimately give back. And it's that partnership that I mentioned earlier. If we stopped doing the ACEing Autism, the Court Shoes Only, or participating in any ACEing Autism event, that wouldn't be fair to Niels, because we've built a relationship, right? And so why not continue? It's coming from both sides. So that's why you just don't stop.
Yeah, and I mean, we'd like to sell more. The more we sell, the more we can give back to ACEing Autism. So, this year we actually did a little bit larger batch than we did the previous year, in hopes of, selling more beer and, and being able to, give back more to ACEing Autism and things like that. So, yeah.
And looking at this year's initiative, you are expanding outside of Charlotte. Obviously, when you first launched, it was ultra Charlotte localized. And, I like to talk to the brewery owners about first owning like the mile, own that mile directly around your brewery, get all those guests to want to come to your tap room. But you essentially own the mile for Charlotte with court shoes only. Now you're expanding, you're scaling, you're scaling smart. What's the process been like reaching out to other breweries across the state, or what made you decide to want to make this more of a statewide initiative versus just something Charlotte specific?
So within North Carolina, obviously we wanted to make sure that if we did nothing else, we kept it local enough to where Niels and I were able to still, have a personal touch and be able to really stay involved in these other areas and be able to connect with the breweries directly. That was important to us just for our own sanity and our own time, but also to really make sure that we're building this out, organically rather than, saying year one was a success. Let's do it in California. That's not really accomplishing what we're trying to accomplish. And as well, here in North Carolina, we have a lot of great ACEing Autism programs. It's not just Charlotte. There's a lot of other programs that really need that support, really need some of the additional awareness, fundraising, volunteer pool growth. And if we're able to really be able to make that effect, we're able to really grow that out in a way that's still sustainable. That's the most important thing. We don't want to get to the point where, court shoes only or any of these efforts are something that collapse under their own weight. And that's what you tend to see the most with some of these things that go for, growth without remembering the fact that, you might be able to get everybody to sign up once, but how the hell do you get them coming back year after year? It's important for us that this is something that outlasted last year. And we were talking about year 2, 3, 4, and 5, even before we'd launched last year, because we want to make sure that this is, last year, this is just a part of what it means to be a brewery in Charlotte. And after this year, we want this to just be a part of what it means to be a brewery in North Carolina. And, from there, we've had conversations about what it looks like in the future, but there's a lot of opportunity here to be able to make a real impact and a deep impact in local communities and really give breweries the opportunity, the stage moment to be able to step up and do so.
Aaron, that's really powerful what you just said. You made the comment, it's what makes you part of a brewery here in North Carolina by doing this. It's part of your DNA. And these initiatives, they're not one and done. It's about constantly drawing awareness to the cause and continuing to make a difference and dedicating time and resources and energy towards these initiatives.
Yeah, I think Gavin has said it best, is the importance of partnership. I think we've all seen with, particular causes across, whether it's social or even just, local charitable organizations, that if you're doing it once, it's very easy to just kind of throw it out there, but no actual change happens. And money can affect change. Money's important for change and awareness and all that. I get that. But when you're able to build something and you're really able to build the expectation and make it a part of what it means to be an individual, what it means to be a brewery in that area, now it gives you the opportunity to create a lot more systemic change, whatever that cause may be. And in the case of ACEing Autism, really allows us to build this into the fabric of the local brewing community, which is something Niels had already done for a decade with QCBF ahead of us.
No, I love it. And I love how each of the areas outside of Charlotte that's participating, they're doing a unique style of beer. You've got the Imperial Stout in Charlotte. You've got a Session IPA, a West Coast IPA, and the English Lager. So hopefully that generates even more consumer awareness for the initiative.
Yeah, it was important to us to really be able to also let each region put their own stamp on it. For one, where anybody in North Carolina will tell you, we got these very distinct regions and they're all very, very proud and they have every right and reason to be. And it was important for us to not make this Charlotte's thing moving out. This needs to be something Raleigh-Durham can own. It needs to be something Asheville can own, that the Triad can own. Down the line, as more programs get added or we expand it, we want those areas to really be able to take a look at this and say that not only is this focused on our local programs, not only is this, made up of the breweries in our local area, but it's even appealing to our customers. We're the ones driving it. We're the ones really taking ownership of it. Because when you enable people to take ownership of a cause that they believe in, that really lets them invest emotionally. And a lot of times that makes a much bigger impact than something where you're telling them how you want it run.
Absolutely. And Niels, with the expansion of the project and April 2nd's World Autism Awareness Day, that's going to be the release. How many breweries do you anticipate participating this year?
Well, we're gaining market by market. I think some brewery owners in particular, thank you, Gavin, are a little bit more responsive to registration forms and the like. I sometimes learn about breweries participating that I didn't know were going to be a part of the initiative. But we're a little over 30 in Charlotte, and then about a half dozen in both the Triangle and the Triad. And got a bit of a singles match going in Asheville at the moment, but I suspect we're going to have some other breweries participate. But yeah, all in, if we're in that 50 to 60 range in the second year after piloting it, I think we'll be pretty psyched.
That's definitely something to be proud of. So for any brewer listening today who may be in Carolina, how can they get involved?
Yeah, everything is housed on a dedicated website. This was a pretty cool outcome of the first year run, courtshoesonly.beer. And as Aaron mentioned earlier, it's all open source. So, you can click on the brewery resources to find all of the creative assets, the recipe itself, the registration form, of course, but that's the go-to, courtshoesonly.beer. And then throughout that is references to ACEing Autism and how to get involved. If you came across the beer and now you came across the cause, well, take it one step further and get on the court with us.
No.
And sign up. I know a lot of you are participating. You haven't filled out the damn form. Fill it out. We'd love to be able to promote you guys.
April is Autism Awareness Month, so we've got a bit more runway than just April 2nd. But yeah, very, very grateful for everyone who's gotten behind this and how it's grown.
As we mentioned earlier, there's no set playbook for these collaboration initiatives. If you all were to give advice to brewers in other areas looking to do something on a small scale, localized scale like this, what advice would you get?
Niels, you want to take first crack at that?
I think I'm going to echo Gavin here. This is so much about relationships. It's building trust. I think you want to be organized. You want to make this clear. You want to communicate regularly. I think it's also something that you have to be awfully passionate about. This is one way to get to our end goal of serving the autism community. And this is a really cool, unique vehicle to do so. But it goes back to, passionate, creative, and effective relationship development. That's so very much of what it is. I wish I could have Aaron, 3-4 days a week making brewery visits across the state. And maybe we'll get there in a few years, Aaron.
My wife doesn't even get me 3-4 days a week anymore, but yeah, and I'll echo some of what Neil said, some of what Gavin and Dustin have said. Community is important. One of the most important things I would say is start where you're strongest. Really focus on the network that you have and the connections that you have, because that's always going to make that conversation easiest. One of the single biggest challenges in this industry across the board is just the bandwidth of the people involved in it. I said earlier, running a small business is incredibly difficult, and it's very easy for us to forget the number of hats that people like Gavin, people like Dustin have to wear on a regular basis. So anything that you can do to cut down on some of that transactional friction, cut down on some of what it takes to really make this something that they can participate in, that's going to be important. So make it as easy on them as possible, provide them as many resources as you can. And it has to be said, you're already asking a lot of them just by asking them to participate in something that's not directly necessarily going to their bottom line. I think we can forget sometimes that, a lot of times these breweries are working off of razor thin margins and small P&Ls to start with. So if you can do everything you can to make it not only easy for them, but also something that can hopefully benefit them above and beyond just, the community impact, that's also helpful. It's important to us that we're able to drive additional business and that we've seen that play out at places that have participated in Court Shoes Only in the first year, because we're not the only ones who are coming with an ask. Breweries get asked multiple times a day about participating in charitable programs. They have a million options for what they can do, even if they want to give every dime they make away. So if you're able to really lean in and say, hey, we want to do something that's not only going to be able to benefit a fantastic cause, and we're not only going to try and make it as easy on you as possible, but we also want this to be advantageous for you so that you're able to grow your business and use that as a platform down the line to give more, whether to us or to a different cause.
That's great insight there.
I'd also throw in, it helps with in the spirit of collaboration too. When you join an initiative like this, you're going to meet new people, or you're going to see somebody that you haven't seen in a while. And hey, you might even make a beer together. So whether it's, for Court Shoes or for a different beer down the line, that also adds to the sense of community. Dustin and I haven't collaborated yet, and so maybe this conversation will spring that into action. So, it's just one of those things that you have to be willing to take these chances sometimes. And if you're new to something, that chance becomes a little bit easier when somebody else might have an experience with someone else already, like partnering with us or whatever.
Perhaps you and Dustin could be collaborators on the Beanie Baby series, Aaron.
I was going to mention maybe the Beanie Baby beer.
I think there's potential there, guys.
Yeah. No, I agree with Gavin, and especially what Aaron said. The courtshoesonly.beer website is extremely helpful for us, when we're trying to put together the label or, look at our recipe or, everything they do on there has been really helpful for the breweries, I believe, so that was good.
Keep it simple, make the website easy for the brewers to get involved and make the beer easy for the consumer to understand. I think that's a really important part of these initiatives. Now, Neil, looking to 2023, you're hoping to bring back the QC Brewfest. What can we expect?
Yeah, a darn good time. Book your ticket. Come down.
Only a 6-hour drive for me. That's not bad.
I think it's very much continuing the theme and continuing a tradition. This will always be a spotlight on the Charlotte area breweries. If you're about half an hour from uptown Charlotte, you're getting an invitation. And again, with so much growth here, and you haven't tried that brewery that might be on the outskirts, this is a chance to get to know them and try their beers. We're looking at a new venue, so I'm excited about that. But other than that, the date will stay the same. This is Super Bowl weekend, and we have 2 tasting sessions. It's it's very much a community. You probably see a lot of the people when you come to QC Brewfest in particular.
And I would imagine the event is obviously going to raise money for ACEing Autism, but you'll also continue on with Court Shoes Only next year?
Yeah, actually, what is so cool is how Court Shoes Only has become kind of an entity of its own. It's become its own driving force, which is ACEing Autism's connection to the craft beer community, which kind of opened the door for a new initiative, a new direction for Queen City Brewers Festival. This is a celebration of the Charlotte area breweries. We have a local Brewers Alliance in the Charlotte Independent Brewers Alliance. So QC Brewfest will be a benefit to the breweries themselves and what we're doing in the market to promote them and to support them.
I love it. Do you think there's a possibility those attending will be able to try multiple versions of Court Shoes Only while they're there?
It could be. I mean, from maybe those that are barrel aged, or especially something like a stout that can certainly last from April to February. But yeah, I think there could be some sort of table tennis, maybe a tennis tournament, some sort of variant tasting in the future. We've done it for the breweries, for the brewers themselves, and psyched about Gavin hosting that at the end of next month. But we need to.
Is there a sign-up sheet for QCBF 2023? I'd like to go ahead and get on there. I know Dustin would too.
Yes. This is being recorded, so there you go.
It's happening. Well, Niels, Aaron, Dustin, and Gavin, this has been an absolute pleasure learning more about Court Shoes Only. It's amazing what you've created. I know the second iteration is happening right now, April 2nd, World Autism Awareness Day. So thank you all for sharing what you've done, the tips you've learned, and the strategies for success that's kind of made this such a great initiative. So I appreciate you all. I really do hope to make it to that fest next year. So looking forward to beers in person. Excited to continue following the success of this. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on, Andrew.
Bye.